Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to another live stream. It's our Wednesday live stream, hump day, getting over the hump, headed downhill to the weekend, a football-filled weekend. Yes, we'll be talking tons about that football, the college football playoff matchups. We'll talk a lot about Texas versus Clemson. We'll get into that. There's some transfer portal news. There's always transfer portal news to get into. It give it and it take it away. We have a very special guest joining us, expected in about 15-20 minutes. I don't know. Should I tease this, Jerry, or what should we surprise the people? It's going to be a surprise thing here.
I think so, maybe, but let's just say he can really dunk a basketball.
Okay, there you go. Boom, that's the tease. All right, there you go. So we got a very special guest. We're really excited.
He's an Instagram warrior. See if they know who that is.
See, I'm gonna let Jerry stir it up. All right,
this is going to be a surprise to everybody.
Well, because the Cade Phillips surprise worked so well when he just kind of dropped in. Everybody was like, "Oh, that's very." So I don't know. We kind of keep the surprise going.
I wasn't there. What were your takeaways from Cade last night?
Oh man, look, competitor. I mean, he's honestly a lot of what I remember from the snapshot I got from him at the showcase camp. Shout out to Anthony Williams, father of lifetime Longhorn Aaron Williams, who had me out there. But that's the first time I got a chance to coach him up as a guest coach. And he was just as fiery and as competitive. We talked about what drives you and what motivates you. Why do you play the cornerback position? And cornerback is kind of where he intends to play. When I asked him, "Hey, where you starting out at? What did Texas tell you that they had? What vision they have in the way they wanted to use you and deploy you?" And he clearly stated cornerback, and then maybe after that, there could be some movement, but yeah, he clearly wants to start at corner. And I think that's part of just his competitive nature. And he wants to play bump and run. He wants to play press. I do think Texas at one point, this new crop of DBs the last couple of years they're getting in, Kobe Black being one of them, now the Cade Phillips, if they're deploying that kind of size and length on the outside with that combination of athleticism, I think they do want to start playing more press man. I think that's the kind of the last added kind of conceptual cheat codes that Texas wants to add defensively. With the multiplicity, we've talked about that, the versatility. Look at how many linemen played multiple shades up front. I mean, they got 3, 4, 5 guys that play multiple shades up front and move around. And I think that's part of Anthony Hill on the second level, right? He's a guy you can put on, roll down to the edge. We talked about Jadae Barron, how flexible he is and how versatile he is, the Thorpe Award winner. I think one of the last things they want to add is guys who can just straight up play press man. Nick Saban always says it's the greatest coverage that you can deploy as a defense. Problem is, not everybody can do it because everybody ain't got the dogs. Texas should be able to recruit the dogs. Yes. And that's like your Ohio States of the world and your LSUs of the world, your Georgias of the world. They can play a lot of men. They should be able to. They should be able to recruit the athletes to do it. And Texas is too. So like what I heard and saw from Cade Phillips. But anyway, sorry, don't get me talking about DBs so I can go all day. All right, introducing, of course, lifetime Longhorn young prodigy, CJ Vogel, and you just heard of my man, Jerry Hamilton, the estimable Jerry Hamilton. So we'll get into a lot on the show, of course. We got a special guest, like I said, joining us in about 10 minutes or so. But let's get into it, guys, before we talk transfer portal, because, of course, that is a huge topic of conversation. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions. By the way, throw out your questions and comments out there. We'll address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Man, some of the guesses about our special guests are getting crazy. So through Kevin.
One day, I do plan to get KD on here one day.
There you go. See, so you know it ain't KD. Boom, KD. Crossed off the list. All right. But it is. Trust me, y'all gonna be excited about it when it is revealed. But let's get to a little Texas Clemson right now on the show, guys. Just give me your thoughts. I mean, we're creeping closer and closer to this game. Are you growing more anxious as we get closer or more confident as we get closer to the game? CJ, what about you?
Yeah, I've kind of done this for a number of games so far this year where, maybe a week out, maybe I look at it from, what could go wrong. And then as the week kind of gets going and you get closer to the game itself, it's like, okay, I know what this team is for Texas. I know what the strengths are. I know how good they've been. I'm going to talk myself into Texas. And having heard some optimism from practice this week, I'm talking myself into Texas by a little bit more than maybe I thought I would be earlier in the week. And, again, I don't want to discount Clemson completely, right? They're a good team. Are they a great team? Probably not. I do think it would have to take almost a superhuman effort for Cade Klubnik to come into Austin and win this football game. But, hey, Dabo Swinney's a championship-winning coach. right? That pedigree culture that we talked about in Austin, that's kind of mirrored in Clemson, right? So I don't want to completely discount Clemson in this game, but the more that this game, I start looking into it, the more that I start thinking Texas should probably win this game by double digits, right? Close to that line.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm at 30. I'm at 34-20. That's my prediction score, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm not saying that's all offensive points by Clemson necessarily, because I think until Texas plays a clean game, I can't sit here and predict a clean game type of score. But I had a question for the chat too. So we kick around all the time, oh, what's Texas have to do?
Yeah.
What does this Texas team absolutely have to do to go get it done? So I think sometimes it's like we're so hyper-focused on Texas. I want to ask the chat, you guys too, what do the other teams have to do to get it done tonight? What does Oregon have to get it done? Because they're off this week, obviously, but because we talk about Texas red zone offense, can't turn the ball over, need to play clean ball offense. Well, what about Oregon on defense? What do they have to do? Because they're getting sliced and diced by all the teams in the playoff. What does Ohio State have to do? I mean, like, what does Georgia have to do with Gunnar Stockton? So in the chat, man, give us some feedback too. But as far as Texas Clemson, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should be getting more confident, but CJ, I think it was your stat that Clemson's one of the worst fourth quarter defenses in America.
They are.
And that is very easy. We don't need to sit here and talk 10 minutes, dive in around of why that is. Because Dabo didn't go to the portal. He doesn't have the depth that some of these other teams have in college football. And they're young in the secondary. And they start 4 sophomores and 2 freshmen on defense against SMU. So what does that tell you? That tells you they don't have great depth behind those guys either, probably because they're really young on defense. So the more you kind of dive into this game, and with the I'll call them CJGM on things like that. I like Texas chances. If they just get off to a good start and don't give Clemson hope by making some turnover on your own end, block punt, putting the ball on the rug on the 3rd and 1, fumbling an exchange, just something like that, Rod, and don't give Clemson hope and belief. If Texas will come out and play clean early in this game and really possess the football, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball, then this Clemson defense is going to get tired. It's happened all year.
Yep. No, I agree with you on that. I agree. I saw that stat too, CJ, about the fourth quarter defense. It's been bad for them all season long. They're actually really good as a team in the first quarter. They score a lot of points in the first quarter, and their defense, as you kind of pointed out, they're fresher early on in the game. But as the game wears on, they seem to wear out just a little bit. 0 turnovers. That's any of these matchups. Right. Turnovers, clean games for Texas specifically. That's going to be big because that's something that Clemson really hangs their hat on. They're top 5 in the country in turnover margin. So they take care of the football. They play a clean game against Texas. That can be, a tall task because that defense is very opportunistic. So I'm actually growing more confident. I think it's a bad matchup for Clemson. I agree with CJ. You're going to have to see basically Cade Klubnik put the cape on, play the best game he's ever played, and he's capable of it, by the way. He could do that. But against Texas on the road, hey, it's his backyard too because he's from Austin. So that is a possibility. I think considering the way Clemson's running game has looked the last 4 games or so, they're not going to be able to run the ball consistently on Texas. Yeah, and they can't run it. It's going to be a one-dimensional game. One-dimensional against the Texas defense. That's a bad place to be unless, like I said, Klubnik just goes off, and he could go off. For Texas offensively, they just got to play clean. They play clean. I think eventually they'll break through. I don't know if they're going to be they got to play clean. That's hard against Clemson because Clemson is a very havoc-minded defense. Top 25 in tackles for loss and sacks. They make a lot of plays that way. We'll see if they can stop the running game of Texas. If the run game is on for Texas, it's going to be a blowout.
Hey, Rod, one thing on that Clemson offense that I think is really interesting. 2 games in ACC play, they were held under 400 yards. Pittsburgh at Pitt, which Narduzzi's a tremendous defensive coordinator, mind as a head coach, right? Mm-hmm. Moff had 17 carries, 17 yards. SMU last week, Clemson had 326 yards. We're outgained by 132. Moffa had 13 for 28.
Yeah.
If Texas shuts him down like that, and Moff is playing on one arm, one shoulder.
Yeah.
If Texas shuts it down, that's a hell of a lot of pressure on Cade Klubnik. They're going to beat the number 2 ranked defense in the country without a run.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And then if Texas offensively plays clean, as we've said, they could. I think they will be able to run the ball. I think Georgia can stop Texas run game. Now,
Right.
can Clemson replicate that? I don't know if they can, because A&M's got really good players, NFL guys, and A&M couldn't stop it at home. I don't necessarily. I think Georgia can stop it because Georgia is a different beast altogether. So, but that's kind of the 2 cents. We'll get, of course, deeper into that matchup as the show goes on, and we'll get deeper into it, obviously, on all the shows. Matter of fact, speaking of all the shows this week, all of our live coverage previewing the matchup, the college football playoff matchup between Texas and Clemson, brought to you by our good friends at Duck Camp. Duck Camp produces premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit in each and every one of us. Duck Camp is dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good, whether you're an avid hunter or fisherman, or you prefer, like me, to hang out around the campsite, prefer the camaraderie of the campfire. Duck Camp is a brand that understands the culture and outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living an outdoor lifestyle. Check out their new fall selection today at duckcamp.com. And I have 4 or 5 different items now from Duck Camp. Love them all. They're fantastic. Got a couple of hats. I already got a couple of hoodies that I got from Duck Camp. Also, they got a color. I don't know the name of it, but it's pretty close to burnt orange. Probably as close as you can get to burnt orange. So you can go check that out at duckcamp.com. And thank you very much for sponsoring all of our live coverage of our playoff preview of Texas Clemson this week on all of our shows. Thank you very much to duckcamp.com. All right. Before we get to our special guests, let's hit a couple of questions here coming up. How about this one from Chris? You don't know ball. What's up with Eric Singleton? He hasn't signed with Auburn as predicted. Uh-oh. There you go. What's up with Eric Singleton? People want to know. Inquiring minds.
Kind of in a waiting fold right now, right? Texas has done pretty well so far, signing 3 of the 4 visitors on campus that have visited. Singleton was obviously the 5th. He left unsigned. Now it's kind of in that waiting fold, right? Auburn, Texas, which one is it? Look, I had a lot of confidence last night. I put the post up on Texas football. It felt like that there was some momentum for the Longhorns. Obviously, no deal means that momentum might have stalled out a little bit. Now it's up to Auburn to seal the deal, see where he ends up. Again, he's visited Ole Miss, Miami, Auburn as well. So we'll see. But kind of in the waiting fold, it feels like momentum there has swung back to Auburn right now. I don't think, Jerry, Texas is going to sit there and overpay for portal prospects. They haven't done it so far. There's a couple prospects last year that Texas kind of turned down at the end of their visit as well.
Yeah, so look, if this thing goes past Friday, I'd be surprised. I think in the next 24, 48 hours, this won't drag on, I don't think. I do think Auburn or Texas. Look, it's the NIL era, so let's be careful eliminating people, even if people around the kid says they're eliminated, because I think we know this is really wild times, as wild as I've ever seen in this business. But I do think Auburn or Texas is the pick, and I mean, look, I hate to say it, but I mean, the football decision is pretty obvious, but that's not the world we live in. So let's see what Eric Singleton announces and decides.
All right, there you go. Yeah, the NIL era. I wish I could have played in it though. It is wild, but I wish I could have been a part of those wild times. How about this one from Hi, I'm Boo Corrigan. Yes, I did see this news. Can we all appreciate the fact that Diego Pavia will be playing football in Austin next year? Yes, for those who did not hear, thank you. Hi, I'm Boo Corrigan. Diego Pavia was granted another season of eligibility. So
that delays him being a UFC fighter by a couple of years.
He is a likes to fight guy at quarterback.
Yes, I love that guy. Yeah,
it's rare. So I don't like that actually, because he's one of the few quarterbacks. Even though Texas suffocate that offense, he made plays.
Playmaker.
He's just a playmaker, man. He's just a dude.
Speaking of playmakers, I think we got one.
Oh, there we go. I like it.
Hey,
ooh.
Hey, look, it's dunking KJ Lacy. I think our producer has the Instagram video that KJ quickly corrected me on when I talked him this out. Look at the hops on this cat. He's wearing slides, man.
Nice. Legit.
KJ. I was like, KJ. I was like, I didn't know you had that. He was like, first of all, I got hops. I was like, no, I knew you had hops, but that's a different level of hops, dude. You cocked that thing back with the slides on, man. Hops had to be proud on that one.
Oh yeah, he saw it like the other day because I never posted it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how that video got out. Somebody else recorded it for me, but I looked on TikTok and somebody had made like a fan page and they had a whole bunch of stuff I didn't even know about. But I saw that video. That was during spring break. We were out there playing basketball. I had already got warmed up and stuff. That was towards the end, so I was out there just jumping.
It's nasty.
KJ, I saw you in Lockhart for that 7-on-7 tournament way back in the spring, and you told me you were a bit of a hooper. Go into that a little bit more details. How much of a hooper were you? What was your game like? And how does that facilitation kind of work as a quarterback now?
Yeah, I've been playing basketball. That was my first sport since I was like, really my dad started working me since I was like 3 years old. Just, like in the room at first, dribbling two basketballs and all that stuff. So, yeah, that was my first sport. My dad played basketball. He played a little bit like overseas and stuff. So yeah, it's been fun. That whole journey and everything. I started varsity my 8th grade year. I played a little bit against Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
I had like I think 18 points and 13 rebounds or something. We lost by a lot, but we.
And by the way, that was when you were at Daphne High, correct? For those that don't know.
But yeah, like you said, I played point guard and shooting guard, just 1 and 2 basically. I did a lot of bringing the ball up the court. It helps out with the vision in football. You kind of see things before it happens out there on the field, just the anticipation part. So yeah, I feel like that's one of the main things, knowing things gonna happen before they do happen, and then making plays. So yes, sir.
Hey KJ, I want to ask you, what have you been working on in your game, man? I haven't got a chance to watch the latest film, but what have you been working on specifically to take your game to the next level?
I feel like I do a lot of good things, right? I do a couple things at the elite level and everything, but mainly the footwork part. Just always want to get faster while I'm out there on the field, make sure I'm polished, have all that stuff down to a T. That's probably the main thing that I want to work on right now. I feel like I do a good bit of it, pretty well, but definitely want to get better at that.
Hey, so for the Texas fans, and we have over 1,000 people watching this that don't know, your head coach, Jeff Kelly at Saraland, was a tremendous quarterback at Southern Miss, played a little in the NFL and CFL. How many and he's a great offensive coach, by the way, for the fans that haven't seen Saraland. How many similarities are there in the offense you guys run that Sark runs at Texas? How much familiarity is there?
It's a lot. I see a lot of stuff that Coach Sark calls that we run. Matter of fact, we took a couple plays from when we play Alabama at Alabama. We saw that play that X scored on. We ran Ryan sophomore or really junior year mainly. We scored on it 7 times. We scored on the state championship game also. I remember before we ran the play, Coach Kelly was running down the sideline and saw Sark and play and so about to run and play real quick. We run a whole lot of motions, a whole lot of play action. So a lot of the RPO stuff, it's a whole lot of similarities, honestly.
KJ, building out this 25 class, of course, you're the quarterback now in the number 1 overall recruiting class. It's pretty special to have a feather in your cap but you were a member of this class long before everybody else. You kind of saw how this class came together. There was one day in the spring where Texas had a pretty big recruiting visit with Kalik Lockett, Jamie French's first visit, and they all point to you as someone that kind of embraced them and kind of welcome them to Texas at the time. Take us back to that day and kind of how this kind of came about with you, the wide receivers, and the rest of this class starting in the spring.
Right. Jamie, I've been on him since he was committed to Alabama with Ryan and all that stuff. Under the Future 50 stuff, I was always trying to get him man, you don't want to go to Alabama, but he committed. The first thing he texted me and asked me how the Texas thing was. They had offered him as soon as he committed. So, yeah, I was on him from then. Kalik, same way. I was on him for a long time. Especially, I feel like the official visit kind of solidified everything. Just all of us being able to be together, all those offensive guys, and just get a feel for each other and then be around the coaches at the same times and then be around the players that are going to be there next year also. So, yeah, the class came together really good. I was the first commit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
so just being there and then, seeing how the class built up from there. And then I think we, like, overall over the things, 7 5-stars. I forget how many commits it is in total. They're pretty good. So,
Hey, we're going to take a few questions from the chat. Not Ryan Williams rumors, okay? Those are out. We're not asking KJ any BS, okay? So Orlando has this question for you, KJ. What's the biggest thing that drew you to Texas? Players, culture, tradition, scheme, academics, or a little bit of everything? What was the biggest thing that drew you to Texas?
really,
Thank you for the question.
like, almost like you said, the everything part. Like I've been saying, first time I went to Texas, I wasn't expecting just the community and like the scenery around Austin. I really didn't know how it was. I didn't look anything up. I just kind of went out there on that visit, and then figured out how everything was. Came back, and then I think it was my second time there when I committed. So yeah, just I had that feel like as home as soon as I got there. It just felt like one of the best places I had been.
Nice.
Yeah, and then just Coach Sark and Coach Newby, those are like the main people that recruited me the whole way through. Just them telling me how I was gonna fit into the offense, and them being at Alabama, telling me the similarities they've seen at like the offense from when they ran with just at Alabama, and then coming up to Texas and bringing everything over. Just Coach Sark's schemes and his offensive mind. That's one of the main things that drew me over there also.
3 people have asked this in the chat, so I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
A lot of people say Bryce Young, obviously, he played at Bama. There's some similarities in frames and skill sets, but who do you model your game after? Is there a quarterback out there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a lot. Mainly the NFL players I kind of watch. I like to take a lot of stuff from the Patrick Mahomes thing. Another person is Aaron Rodgers. I love Aaron Rodgers. Just like his release, and he has, even though he doesn't move like a whole lot, he has a lot of playmaking ability and then able to just make plays when he can. Those are probably the main two that I kind of model my game after in the NFL. I love watching Bryce Young play when he was at Alabama. He's doing his thing right now at the Panthers right now. So yeah, just I feel like those are the main two. So.
And one more question, and then I know Rod's got a question. I think we all have questions left, but this is a very important one, KJ. We're putting you on the spot. Clint, great question. Who do you look forward to beating more, OU or A&M? And this is a tough question because you grew up in Mobile, Alabama, so I don't know if you really know the history here. Who do you look forward to beating more, though?
I couldn't really tell you. The OU, I feel like the OU has been the one I've been more familiar with. The Texas A&M, I knew it was always a rivalry because every time I posted something, there was somebody from Texas A&M saying something. I committed to Texas A&M to the game, and they were like, "Bad throw, great catch," and I was like, "All right, come on now, man."
Yes, I saw those. I saw the one guy that was going at you on social media after the Alabama All-Star game. I saw all that. I was kind of cracking up at it. I was like, hey, he's trying.
But probably that Oklahoma one, just because neutral site game, just the whole rivalry behind that. And then I've seen more of that game than anything. The Texas A&M, this year was crazy. That crowd was insane. I was gonna go to the Texas A&M game. It was like before I was committed and all that, but ended up not going out there. But just seeing that game on TV just showed me how much of an environment it is out there. So, but probably definitely that Oklahoma game.
Hey KJ, I've seen some people's opinion that you're the greatest player in the history of Alabama high school football. Like that's how decorated some people believe that you are. How much pressure was it leaving the state of Alabama and coming to the state of Texas, to the flagship the state of Texas?
I tell you that every time it was a lot of ups and downs during the recruiting process, especially before I committed. But after I committed, it kind of kept on going up with the Auburn thing, and I'll say it was a whole lot of pressure. You get pressure from the people around you in this, like the city, coaches like at Saraland and all that. A lot of them are Auburn fans and all that stuff, but just everybody around you, it's Alabama or Auburn. So the pressure was crazy, but I knew where I wanted to be at the whole time. Texas always had that spot in my heart that I couldn't let go of. So.
Nice.
KJ, of course, the next month is going to be big for you, right? Not on the field, right? It'll be Texas, pushing for a playoff and national championship, but you'll be arriving on campus here soon. Take folks through what's, the next couple of weeks looking like for you. When are you getting to campus? When are you moving in? When do you start working out and all that?
Right. So we kind of have like a pre-winter workout for the freshmen and all that stuff. So it kind of sets us a schedule of it that we can do at our school, the conditioning and all that stuff. So kind of doing that right now. That's why I just got back from the condition. I went out there to Bayside right down the street and did the conditioning thing. January 2nd, I got the Under Armour All-American game. So I got my Christmas break and then I go up to that, playing that. So that'd be a really good experience. I was there
every throw better be on point, else the Aggies are coming after you, man. Everything has to be in between the numbers on time, KJ.
Yeah, go out there and compete, and just play my game. So and get out there, it'll be fun. I'm not sure how many people Texas commits are in that game. I know a lot of them are in the Adidas game, Jamie and that. So so that'll be that. And I'm pretty sure my official report date is January 12th. So I'll be out there then.
So you've been awesome plenty. So where all the good food, eats are. Where the city, kind of has its gyms when it comes to food and all that, right?
Biscuit in the morning. That's my favorite breakfast place out there. So hell yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Hey KJ, you can't answer this because I like to challenge the chat sometimes. But for those that don't know, KJ was at Daphne High before he transferred to Saraland. Daphne High's had a lot of really good football players. For the chat, without going to Wikipedia, who are the top two guys from Daphne that ever came through? I know KJ will know that answer. But for the chat, who can get it without going to Wiki? Because they're really good now that came out of Daphne. Hey, talk about David Morris, QB country.
Right.
Because Arch has obviously worked with him since third grade. I think you started working with him in third or fourth grade. Talk about that relationship with David Morris and QB country and how he's really helped develop you to get you to this point. You were born with the talent, but right, you have to have people really help you and get you dialed in along the way. Talk about QB country and David Morris a little bit.
Exactly. Coming up, you see all the potential. I started training in third grade. I was kind of like taking basketball more serious though. So I was like, just doing it just because, going out there playing a little quarterback thing because I was playing quarterback in park ball. But got to like 11 years old, started taking that real seriously. David, he took me under, helped me out with the recruiting part, get my mechanics straight, and then just introduced me to all the coaches out there, like just all of them in general. He introduced me with the Lane Kiffin and everybody else out there. So did all that. He kind of just, like I said, took me under, and he taught me everything that I needed to know. Still working. I went out there and threw with him today. It was me, Deuce Knight, Landon Duckworth. We were out there throwing. Just got some receivers out there to throw like some comebacks, deep overs, digs, all that stuff. Just working on the play action footwork and deep drops. So love David. He's taught me a lot, helped me with a lot, and yes sir.
KJ, how much film study do you end up doing? I don't know, during the season, off season. I mean, do you watch a lot of film on yourself, on your own tech, like your own footwork, like you said, mechanics, self-scouting?
Yes, sir. For sure. I do that. Just even looking at the other teams, we get in about 3 or 4 good days of film with the team. And then me and Coach Kelly usually go over like what we need to know about the defense, the fronts, and the coverage, all that stuff. And then at home, I'm always looking. My dad, he's logged in on the huddle, so he'll be looking at this stuff too, telling me what to watch out. And then the main thing, just the self-scouting, making sure I'm doing everything right while I'm out there. I always look at that. If I miss a throw, figure out what I did wrong, or if I made a good throw, figure out exactly what I did right, so I can keep on replicating that, and just keep on making it look more sharp. And then, like I said, my dad's always going to be on me, so anytime I do anything wrong on film, he's going to get at me anyway.
Nice.
Hey, KJ, I got to ask you. There was I think the day after I stopped by, y'all played down at Gulf Shores,
right?
And I looked at the huddle and it looked like the mud fest. Is that was that the worst conditions you ever played in because it was on a grass field? Talk about, as a quarterback, how difficult that was, because you guys nowadays play on sport turf fields. Y'all don't play on mud bowls anymore, man. So go back on that game, because I think it rained like 6 inches before that game. It was something crazy, right?
I canceled the game. Actually, before the game, we're in the locker room. The game got delayed a little bit. The field at first, you see the Gulf Shore is out there warming up. We come out, we're running down the field, and then as soon as you step on, your foot just goes straight into the grass. Their field actually still hasn't recovered from that game, so they might have played like 2 more home games, but they'd had another home game the week after, but they ended up playing away because the field was so messed up. So got back. I changed cleats twice that game. I had socks. It was crazy. Get out there, your feet get real heavy. Warm ups. I was gonna wear I had the Vices helmet.
Yeah.
I was that game, but I didn't want to get it all ugly during the game. It was a lot of decisions I had to make. I took my 2 most solid, my black cleats I had, went out there and just ended them on it. So I haven't worn those cleats since. So
yeah, it's basically what playing at Northwestern is like at 11 a.m. whenever you're coming from a school with all turf. But KJ, when you get to campus, I mean, does anybody really know in this recruiting class or on the roster yet just how much of a hooper you are? Are they prepared? Are they going to be a little surprised when y'all play a little pickup and you're the one out there kind of leading the charge?
oh yeah, they're gonna see. I know me, Jamie, and Khalid were kind of talking about the basketball thing, and we got on who the best player of all time was. Coach Sark and Coach Mule were over there with us. We were talking about me and my dad, we're big Kobe guys, and then Khalid said something. Everybody got on him about that, but Coach Sark, he's real big on Kobe and Jordan and all that. So yeah, the basketball part I feel like it comes naturally. I don't really lose. The handles might be the only thing I kind of lose my shot, and everything else is always there. So.
All right, KJ. Well, hey, we really appreciate you taking the time to hang out because it's the last time we'll talk to you before you're at Texas. So always appreciate your time coming on the shows, man. And best of luck. You're awesome to cover. I've had a lot of fun. Look, that's the first time I've been doing this a long time. It took me to Saraland High. So It was really cool. Thank you very much for always being professional at a young age with all of us in the media because I know it's difficult. So thank you very much from all of us.
Appreciate y'all. Hook 'em.
Thanks, KJ.
That was great. Thanks, KJ.
Awesome. That's
Awesome.
Yeah. Fans are excited. They should be. I mean, he's fantastic. Yeah, he's going. I just the personality alone and the skills. I mean, he's going to be a success. No matter what year he ends up starting for Texas, when it happens, he's going to be fantastic. All right, something else that I want to remind you guys about is another one of our sponsors, Andy Ludicky and his team. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like me that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. Call him or email him to learn more about this process. If you're stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, call Andy and he will take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy today or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net, or you can give him a call at 404-973-9901. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky. We really appreciate him for sponsoring our live stream here tonight. All right, let's hit some questions. And thank you very much to KJ as well for joining us. That was fantastic. All right, let's get a couple of questions in here. This is from Lee. Lee says, what does Sark do? Can he actually script a better third quarter? And can we not try to zone block and run screens the whole game if it's actually not working? The third quarter thing, I'll admit, I am concerned about it. Texas number one money run play, pretty much their bread and butter, is the outside zone, the right zone. And Texas is good. I mean, actually one of the better outside zone and zone blocking teams in college football. It just don't work against Georgia, and neither do the screens against Georgia. A lot of things don't work against Georgia. So I think that's specific to Georgia and not necessarily, other teams. And them had a hard time stopping the run, that zone blocking scheme, and so did Kentucky. So I think the run game, hopefully, that is just something that Georgia's dialed in on. The third quarters, I'm not sure what's going on. Sark wasn't asked about it either, CJ. I don't know. He wasn't. Did anybody ask him about the third quarters and his media availabilities?
No, not that I've heard at least. And look, you got to score points in the third quarter. That's the only way that you kind of get this monkey off your back when it comes to the cloud of the third quarter hanging over you. Texas, look, 2 turnovers in the red zone killed you against Texas A&M. Otherwise, they moved the ball very well. My biggest issue against Georgia in the third quarter was you only had 2.5 minutes of time of possession, right? You didn't have the ball very long, which meant you didn't have much opportunity to go put points on the board. And that's even after being able to move the rock very well in the first half. So you can't resort back to that 2021 Sark, that 2022 Sark where you go into halftime with a 10-point lead and before you know it, you're down 10, and we saw that year one. And there's always kind of been that, you better hope you have enough points in the first half. You go into halftime with a large enough lead to sustain that, just because that's kind of been one of those handicaps for Sarkisian. Now I just hope it doesn't become the ultimate deciding factor, if you get what I'm saying here. Texas has done well to hold on to leads this year, whether it just be running out 7 minutes of clock against Arkansas, whether it be blowing teams out by 42-0 in the first half. But something has to give, because that second half hasn't always been the strength of a Texas offense, even with, some of the big-time playmakers that they've had on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Hey, Rod, can I read something real quick before we get to our
sir.
question? Because a friend of mine just sent me something. This is Texas UIL. A proposed House bill would allow Texas high school athletes to transfer once to another school district for athletic purposes without penalty. I don't think that'll pass, but if it ever did, there would be true chaos in high school athletics in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Transfer portal for high school?
One time for athletic purposes without penalty. I don't think it'll pass, but that would be wild in the state of Texas if it did.
And then that would be wild. I mean, I honestly, it happens. It just ain't a transfer portal right around, but we know it does happen. I mean,
right.
Yes, it does happen. That's interesting. There's no way it'll pass though, right? There's no way.
I would be surprised. I just think that will, I know the times are changing, but man, that would be a surprise in Texas UIL.
Wow. Man, that's fascinating. That is fascinating. All right. Edgar here. Thank you for the super chat, Edgar. Sorry that I missed this earlier. Should have threw this out there when KJ was on with us. KJ, help us bring those big human Bama bodies to Texas. No, see, hey, thank you for the super chat, Edgar. Yeah, you're right about that. We'll try to pass that along. I'll tell Jerry to pass that along to KJ. But Alabama has been a fertile recruiting ground, just the state of Alabama, just in terms of producing NFL talent. And Texas, I can't remember the last, I'm sure you do. When was the last time Texas got a guy out of Alabama, a dude out of, not transfer pool, I'm talking about recruiting from the state.
Yeah, but Justice Finkley and KJ. But before that, it had been a while. And I don't think my years doing this that I can remember. But that state, the crazy thing about the state of Alabama, we did a study when I was at ESPN Under Armour around the Under Armour game. The state of Alabama, their highest ranked kids may have the highest turnout rate of any state. Like the guys that were supposed to be really good ended up being really good. And those kids are really physical football players in that state. That's the one thing. And by the way, I asked the question earlier about Daphne High School. TJ Yeldon, Daphne High, Ryan Anderson, Daphne High, on those really good Alabama national championships. Kenny King, obviously Patrick White, former quarterback from West Virginia. Daphne's been one of the top high schools in the state of Alabama for recent years. And obviously KJ Lacy was a varsity basketball player as an 8th grader there and played his freshman year there before transferring to Saraland. And also he would have added to that list.
Good stuff there. GM Platter, this is a good question. I think I know the answer to it, but just so it is more common knowledge. He says, is there an actual transfer portal, an official centralized database or site that has all the players listed and their status? I'm assuming the colleges have access to this. Is it public?
No, the answer is not. The real transfer portal is not officially, public to everybody. Of course, it'd be making our jobs a whole lot more easy to go track some kids down, see when they officially enlist in the portal. But there's obviously a lot of recruiting services out there that cover the portal well, keep their own database. We try to do a pretty solid job over at ontexasfootball.com for all portal, departures and arrivals for Texas, especially Oklahoma, Texas A&M, SEC. We try to keep a good job, a close eye on those as well. But the big portal, not accessible for us.
And here's the crazy thing about the portal. So when somebody goes in the portal, there's a 48-hour window that school that he's at they can only talk to him. No other school can. But the colleges can see that on the back end beforehand. So they know when a kid has clicked the buttons that he's entering the portal, and then know there's a 48-hour window for the school he's at to keep that from actually going on into the portal.
I gotcha.
So the colleges can see it before it actually happens too, which is kind of crazy.
I honestly, so is that by design, Jerry?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Okay.
That is interesting though. That you made a good point there, because that little window, a lot can happen, as we know, in that window. All right, good question there. Appreciate that. CJ, let's play COD. What?
A little Call of Duty action. Look, I have to re-download that game. I haven't had a Call of Duty in years.
I thought somebody was challenging you to change of direction.
Yeah, I didn't. That's how you know.
CJ getting on a 5-10-5 live on air.
That's how you know how ignorant I am. I was like, "What? Let's play. What is that?"
Jerry, that's one of the things. If we can never do a publicized combine for us at OTF.
Oh yeah.
If we do, Rod can't come because that would end us.
By the way, covering junior days is like running a 5-10-5. By the way,
yeah, that's true. It's just parking lot to parking lot.
Last time I was on a game, I'm not even gonna say the score, but CJ whipped me pretty bad in the NCAA, the latest NCAA game. So, and it wasn't pretty. And I don't want to talk about it anymore because I'm a sore loser. All right, how about this one from Roger, who says, "Are we through with any portal additions?" No way, right? There's definitely more portal additions. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think up to 9-10 guys at the end of the day, Texas will take out of the portal. But look, it's Sark plays the long game. I said it earlier on shows today with CJ. We were talking about it, but his high school recruiting strategy falls in line with their portal recruiting strategy. They're going to play the long game. They know they're not going to win them all. They just want to continue to stay in positions and make sure they're getting the right fits. I mean, and so just remember, Jermaine Lole was a really late one. They're not all early, and there's a spring portal, and then there's the grad transfer part of the portal. And what happens after the playoffs if a coach hangs it up, or there's change, or 5-day window after a team loses the playoffs, or their players can jump in the portal. It's outside the December 28th close date. There's a lot going on, I think, besides this first mad rush into the portal the first 8-9 days. And by the way, the portal window closes on the 28th, so 11:59 p.m. on the 28th. You have to have your name in the portal unless your team is in the playoffs. And what's crazy about that is Nebraska plays a game on the 28th. Could a couple of their players play in that game and then pop the portal button, hit the portal button about 3 hours after? In today's day and age, I would bet it's probable.
I know. And do I have to call somebody and say, "Hey, I want to be in the portal"? Do I have to go see the paperwork? How quickly can that be done? How quickly can it happen?
Instantaneous.
Is it a file? Is it something basic I got to fill out online and boom, once it's filled out, I'm done?
Yep.
Wow. It's fascinating. I know. It's all right. Very, very. It's a new age in college sports. No question about that. All right, let's get to. I like this question here from William Allen. It says Sark has worn out thin defensive lines with horizontal passing game. Wear them out now with the power running game. With Clemson, I think Texas ultimately will be able to run the ball on Clemson. The Pro Football Focus had a great stat that basically said Clemson is one of the worst teams in the Power 4 at defending the outside zone. They allow 6 yards per rush on outside zone, and that's Texas's bread and butter run concept. If that indeed translates to the game, and maybe Clemson will come in and give you a 5-man front, stack the box, and try to take away the run at all costs. That could happen as well. That'll open up a lot of other things potentially that Texas can exploit. But if Texas can run their bread, like I said, their money concept, which is the outside zone, and then they can throw in their counter, which I think is their second most deployed run concept. If they're doing that, then I think Texas is going to win by, Jerry said, 2 touchdowns. They'll win going away and cover the number. But that's the real question, because if they can't run the ball consistently, then you got to put a lot on Quinn. Then Quinn's got to save the day for you. And if that is the case, Clemson can actually get after the pass a little bit. They can make some plays.
Yeah, TJ Parker, you don't want him to be the guy that's, pinning his ears back. He has 50 pressures, 12 sacks on the season. He's a legitimate top-end pass rusher, someone that will give Cam Williams or Kelvin Banks a lot this week on Saturday. But for me, the big thing with the run game is Texas will be able to get to the second level. Will they be able to get past the second level? Because those linebackers, they can play some pretty solid ball. I was looking at the Pro Football Focus numbers earlier in terms of stoppages, the stat that they credit run stoppages to. Mm-hmm. Defensive linemen for Clemson, they only sit at 10, right? That their highest stop getter on the defensive line, 10. Texas has 3 of its big-time contributors all sitting at 22, 22, and 18. So that gives you a little bit more of a background when it comes to how successful teams are in stopping the run originally at the line of scrimmage versus obviously Sammy Brown, Barrett Carter. Some of their linebackers are really talented.
I think one of the things I'm watching for in this game, CJ and Rod, is there's been times under Sark where that tight end motions and he is one-on-one with the best edge rusher for the opposing team, like Nelson Caesar when he crushed Quinn in the U of H game. I hope that Sark doesn't ask his tight ends to motion into TJ Parker in this game, because I'm not sure that'll end well in a one-on-one.
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times this season, actually, where Gunnar Helm ends up on basically their best pass rusher. I'm with you that, you can't afford for that to happen at the wrong time, especially on
because that's normally the backside protector too.
Yeah, you're right. Got to force a fumble.
Well, he's school record 6 forced fumbles this year for Parker.
Oh, good nugget there. Hey, and CJ, you had a good nugget you put out there about fumble recovery rate. Can you review that for me? That was a great nugget. I have it on my phone, but I know you know it because you put it out there.
Yeah, it's kind of a really good team at recovering fumbles and one that's had pretty bad luck, right? Clemson is 17th in the country at 61.7% fumble rate recovery. So anytime the ball's on the ground, 61% of them, they are recovering their own side. Texas, on the other hand, 103rd in the country, and they're recovering at just 42.1%. And then the little nugget right there, it's been a tough last 3 games for the Longhorns. This goes back to Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Georgia. Only 2 fumble recoveries, one of which really didn't even amount to anything because it was the end of the half on that Hail Mary in which Carson Beck injured his shoulder. But you see there 2 for its last 11 fumble recoveries, both of them coming on strip sacks. That's Trey Moore. That's Anthony Hill. Those are the guys getting after the ball. Vernon Broughton, I believe, has a strip sack as well sometime this year earlier. But you see sometimes the ball just bounces a different direction. And Texas had 2 opportunities going into the red zone against Georgia to recover a fumble, and the ball just didn't bounce their direction.
Hey, Rod, I wanted to ask you a question on follow-up that, because I asked Bobby and CJ, I think on a show last week maybe, do you recall ever seeing a quarterback get hit so hard like Colin Simmons did, that the ball goes from the opposite hash all the way out of bounds?
All the way out of bounds.
I can't ever recall seeing that before.
That much force that the ball never ended up bouncing.
Luck, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've never seen anything like that. Talk about Texas having bad luck. And how about, was it 2 plays in a row where basically Georgia fumbled the football?
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, with Texas guys outnumbering Georgia guys around it, and it bounced right back to them.
And then I don't know how Stockton was able to hold on to the ball from Andrew Makuba.
I know. That was crazy. And when they replayed it, it looked like he knocked him out for like a hot second.
Dude, there's a picture going around where his eyes rolled back, and you're like, whoa, this guy's done for the game. They better have won it then.
Yes.
I
I'm impressed.
asked Makuba.
I
asked Makuba on Monday about the play. I said, "Hey, you realize you were, you were that close to becoming a legend for Texas, right? Just because of that one hit to win an SEC championship game." And he goes, "Look, I saw the helmet rolling around. I thought it was the ball. I thought I did just win the football game." And then obviously, injury timeout, the targeting review, and he goes, "Look, that's 2 weeks in a row. I'm not going to change how I'm playing, but maybe I'll be a little smarter when it comes to how much force I'm bringing the hits with."
But he actually is, because he's barely missing it. Like they throw the flag, and then they have to pick it up, and it's like, nope, it's not targeting because he hit him with his shoulder. I wonder, because he does have, at least I'm not an NFL scout, but the scouting report I guarantee will be that he's light. Yes. When I first saw him, I was like, damn, he's light. He's smaller than I thought when I saw him up close and personal.
Built like a wideout.
Yes, very thin. You know what I mean? In that way. But he does not play like that. He brings the ruckus. Man, he brings the hammer with him. And I almost wonder if that's why he does, because people kind of, I wonder if the scouting report on him is that, oh man, he's a little light. He's a little light. But no, you ain't got to worry about that translating to his game, because he plays like a dude who's out there close to 200 something.
Yeah.
Like
And look, that's always been the case too. Clemson had him originally as a nickel, and that's where he was a freshman All-American in 2020. Was it 2020? I believe 2021. So you play that close to the line of scrimmage in Power 4 ACC football, you do well enough to become a freshman All-American at the level. Yeah, that scared of nothing, fearless. A guy who will go put his head in just about any ant pile and say, you know what, bring it on.
Yeah.
And Rod, to your point, the guys that cover the NFL draft saying that is why Makuba's stock is rising, because he showed a more physical nature on contact this year than he had previous in his career. Mm-hmm. So he's brought a more physical hat in running the alley and just playing in general this season. And that's really going to be the best NFL tape he's put out, combined with the coverage skills.
Yeah. No, he's got a really high ceiling too, because I forget when, and you guys may know, he hadn't played football as long as most because of his story, right? He started playing a little bit later in his career, maybe like his 7th, 8th grade year, somewhere around there. I think he started playing a little bit later. I remember that about his story too. So maybe he's just starting to figure out like what kind of player he wants to be, and he's definitely a physical player, no question about that. Let's thank our good friends at Home Field Apparel before we move on. Home Field Apparel is focused on creating officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. They have a wide range and wide available range of colleges, 180 plus and growing every day. Right now, you can check out their vintage designs at homefieldapparel.com. And if you use that code right there, you see it, Texas24, you'll get 15% off today of any of their apparel. That's 15% off. Just use the code Texas24 for the convenience of online shopping, and it's never been better thanks to our friends at homefieldapparel.com. They contain a lot. They have a lot of items that are never before seen items, and items you can only get at Home Field Apparel. You can't get it anywhere else. So go check out their vintage designs and all of their fantastic apparel at homefieldapparel.com. Remember to use Texas24 and you'll get 15% off today. Thank you very much to homefieldapparel.com. All right. We got a question here from Lonnie. I think that's Lonnie. Lonnie V2 says, is Texas recruiting anybody in this Shiner Munster game? Could have sworn I saw Coach Jackson.
I don't think so. They're practicing this afternoon. I don't think so at all. So no, I don't think that'd be Shiner. They have a young running back athlete kid, but I'm not. He's not on the radar at this point.
All right. Thank you for the question there, Lonnie. Colton says, with hopefully 4 games left in the season, what was the best 4-game stretch for the team? First 4 games were impressive, but against bad opponents. Last 4 did the job, but self-inflicted wounds. That's a good question, Colton. Has Quinn put together? The defense has put together a season, all right, full of sample size. It's a season stretch. Like they've had maybe a couple of bad series here and there the entire season. So the defense, we're talking about mostly the offense here, I'm assuming, right? We're talking about Quinn, and we're talking about the offense as a whole. What's the best 4-game stretch for the offense against some opponents considered? to Colton's point there.
Oh, thank you, Matthew. I was struggling
I mean,
over here. You have to.
There isn't one, right? But it's got to be Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky. That's the only one it can be on this.
I was gonna even go. Yeah,
that's the best stretch. Ooh,
I mean, you have to include Florida in that game. You start 42-0. Your offense is done 3 minutes into the second half. I mean, that's the best performance of the year. Yeah, I'll stick with it. You know, it's tough too because you know you're scoring almost 50 a game earlier in the season. I'll stick with it against those SEC teams.
Yeah, that I know. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's not really that impressive of a stretch.
No,
because toward the end is when your third quarter issue started. That started in the Arkansas game. Florida, honestly, thank God that Sark went for it. What was that on 4th and 2 from his own 26 or something like that to snatch the momentum in that game because he was tired of the slow starts. Remember they had them slow starts. Oklahoma game started out I think with like a sack or something, like a sack and interception. Georgia slow start. Vandy even was kind of a slow start at times. And I think Sark was tired of that, didn't want that. And then in that Florida game, after they had the bye, came back and snatched that momentum. Yeah, man, I guess you guys are right about that. It's just the offense really hasn't had a great 4-game stretch is what we're saying.
No, not against Power 4 opponents.
Yeah, you got to go back to the beginning of the season then. And that's Colton's point is that those were lackluster opponents. And once you got down to – but like I said, I think we have to accept – unfortunately, that this is who they are now at this point, right? Defense is championship level, elite level, best defense in the country. Offense doesn't need to be what we all hope they would be, which is an elite offense with elite passing game and Quinn as a top, quarterback, elite quarterback coming out in the draft, and a dominant running game. Like we don't have to have that. It would be nice. All right, that would be a luxury, but the offense is good enough to still win a championship, and they make enough plays. It's just if they do go on a heater and play the best 4-game stretch we've seen this season, and mostly it's about Quinn, Texas is going to win a national title because that's how good the defense is. But they still can win it even with the inconsistency now on the offensive side of the ball. It's just now, there's no way you can be overconfident in the offense pulling their weight.
Yeah. Look, I've said it and I'll say it again, 24 points offensively and you've won yourself a football game.
Yeah.
That's all it takes in my eyes. But
I look, there may only be one team that Texas would have to play on the road to a national championship where they have to score more than 24. That's Oregon. Because Oregon will score. They're just too – Dylan Gabriel's just playing too high of a level as a college quarterback. They got speed everywhere. They will score on people. I'm not sure how good they are in defense, though, is my big question there.
Yeah.
This is a great comment that we, by the way, when we get ready for it. Jason Washington, good evening, all. Watching Big Human. Nick Brooks plays Ellis Hicks for the Georgia State Big School Championship. I'm at a hotel. Somebody asked earlier. I always stay at Marriott for that person that asked. Brooks is huge. CJ, you can attest to this. A lot of times people say, oh, this guy's 6'7", 6'7" and a half, 365. You're like, you see him in person, he's 6'5" and a half, 345. Yeah. That's not the case with Nick Brooks.
No,
he actually 6'7" and a half, 360.
Jerry, he looked like a mobile home.
Yeah.
It's the best way I could describe it. The way when we saw him for the first time in June for the official visits, my jaw dropped because the way that he just kind of had some sort of like gravity to him. I was like, man, I can't believe that a kid 17, 18 years old is that big. He was tremendous. And then you turn on the tape and you say, oh, he's a better athlete than you would expect a kid that size to be. I do think he'll drop 20 pounds during his time at Texas. And it'll be interesting because with Cam Williams, he came in big and he reshaped his body over 2 years. Now you're seeing how, impactful that's been for his game, but he's always had the feet, right? He's always had the patience there. I think with Nick Brooks, there's going to be a bit of a connection that needs to occur at Texas. And I think that starts with the winter conditioning. That starts with, that starts in the summer. That starts with his freshman campaign, and then obviously the weight and nutritional side of it. Let's see what he looks like coming into 2026, because I think this is a guy that will be a contributor by his time wraps up in Austin.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Let's get to a super chat here from 817. Mr. Talk Too Much says Quinn has 5 new wideouts and no security blanket in CJ in the backfield. Chill, 11-2, and Moorhead. Name 10 better than Quinn. 10 better than Quinn.
Yeah. Look, you're 14 games in now. You're 7-8 months into having all of these guys on campus for a continued amount of time. I don't know if you can continue to use the new wideouts as kind of a defender of Quinn, but look, he's been, good enough for Texas to win 11 games. He needs to be better to win the national championship game, and I'm excited for it because I think when Quinn is playing in his biggest games, for the most part, he plays his best ball. Maybe sans the first Georgia game, but this is where, again, we've talked about Quinn's legacy and what's going to be how he's remembered forever after this career at Texas. This is the time to do it.
Yeah. No, he's just I think Quinn has a really high ceiling as a quarterback, and I've seen him put the cape on and play at elite level. We watched it versus elite competition on the road versus Michigan. I think that's the best he's played all season. And I think since we haven't seen him put together a whole game like that, we put together quarters and halves, even versus Georgia. Hell, that first half he was awesome in that first half versus Georgia. But he had to put together the whole game. So that's the hope, is that you get a whole game of that type of Quinn, or that level of Quinn, like you did versus Michigan. You can do that. I feel confident Texas can beat anybody in the country.
I don't know if you guys saw the Clemson defensive coordinator's press conference. He called him a game manager. And I'll say this, because somebody said this in the chat earlier, and I agree with it. Because of the Texas talent level and the defense, the level they've played at this year, he just needs to be a really, really good game manager for this team. He doesn't have to try to do too much. Now, in the red zone, I think there's going to come a time where he needs to deliver.
Yep.
One throw at when everything else is breaking down, where quarterbacks, this is where you make your money. This is where you go from here to here. You got to go make a play. You got to go be a playmaker and win a game. And I do think he's going to be pressed to do that at some point. Like he was Washington, like he was last week in the Georgia game, or whatever that was a few days ago. I do think that time's going to come, but if he plays smart football, there's one team that can get the track meet that you really have to go get it against, and I think that's Oregon. Otherwise, to CJ's point, if you can score 24-27, you can win the games.
Yep, I agree with that. Thanks for the super chat, 817. Mr. Talk Too Much. We appreciate that. Let's get Daniel's super chat before we get ready to end our live stream. He says, who is the most likely position group to get the game ball this Saturday? Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate the super chat. That is a good one. Who you think's gonna ball out? What position group's gonna stand out the most versus Clemson?
Better be the OL.
Oh, I was gonna go opposite. Defensive end room. Containment and negative plays. That's where I'm looking for them to really make their splashy impact.
That is good, especially Klubnik, who can run. I like that. I like both of them. But y'all just talking about the trenches.
Yeah. That's where Texas has to win this game.
Yeah, that is. I'll just go back to what we were saying. I'll go quarterback. If Quinn plays well, Texas got a good chance to win it all. It really does kind of come down to Quinn, in my opinion. So I'll go with Quinn in the quarterback room in that case. All right. Before we get done with our live stream, let me thank our good friend Andy Ludicky and his team. Really appreciate him once again sponsoring our live stream here. Andy Ludicky does a great job of helping you diversify. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like me that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you're stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, call Andy and he will take you through a process to help you find businesses that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals today. Franchise ownership, while it isn't for everyone, if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, just call Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. And that is Andy Ludicky and his team. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky for sponsoring our Wednesday live stream. All right, guys. Any portal news to get to before we end the live show? I know we talked earlier about obviously Texas and a couple of players. But is there do you think that Texas will address all their needs in the portal in this specific portal window?
I'm not sure they'll fill all their needs, and I'm not sure they're in that big of a hurry to.
Okay.
Look, I think there's a couple of running backs they've kicked the tires on. Quentin Joyner, somebody asked about out of Manor, who's transferring from USC. Ohio State's thought to have a really good shot there. We'll see. And Justice Haynes, because that family's known to Shard Choice so long. But I think it's easier said than done to say, hey, we need a running back. Go get that really good running back, because is a running back going to leave the situation they just left? If it's the same at Texas, are they going to go jump right back into it? That's my biggest question with these guys. And I know NIL talks, but I just think it's easier said than done. And I think there's certain part of this is going to play out with how do some of these guys look in the spring, CJ, at some of these positions. And does a need pop up more so in the spring than they think it is now?
Yeah. That's going to be the key. Of course, we were kind of all caught by the fish hook of what's going to happen with the Michigan defensive tackles this past year. And that was well after the first portal window as well. So there's always going to be coaching changes, situations in which players who probably were very happy in their current situation now debate the portal later in the spring, or, after graduation, let's say in May. So we'll see. I do think Texas will be just fine in the portal, and look, if it comes down to it and they have to overspend, they're going to have to, because looking at the defensive line now and what's going to be in that room, they're going to have to get bodies there regardless of it's the necessary talent level or production. I put up the post earlier today on ontexasfootball.com. Texas hasn't taken a defensive lineman with less than 600 career snaps or with 3 or more years of experience in a college football weight room program, whatever you want to call it. They go for the experienced guys. They go for guys with snaps, productions, D1 level guys that have played a lot of football. The problem is there just aren't many of those guys, especially at the D-line spot.
Yeah, they don't want potential in the portal at that position. They want proven commodities.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
Look, if they're just going to go with
the last year for that.
Look, if they're just going to go with potential, they'll just play their 3 freshmen 20 snaps a game. I mean, that's not really where you want to be unless these guys are just that good in the spring. And they're just like, oh, we got a couple of special guys here that may end up being like the Kelvin Banks on defensive line. But that's a hard freaking position to play a lot of snaps as a true freshman in the SEC.
Yeah, no doubt. It's asking a lot. And then don't you have Ohio State? Week 1?
Game 1.
Week 1. So, that's asking a lot. All right, I think this is a good question to end on, because I think it's a good conversation. Tyler wants to know, is going into the portal like quitting your job with nothing lined up? If you get no offer, can you revert it?
No.
No, this is the same.
Not a lot of cases. And look, and this is I hate to harp on one singular guy, but if you go in the portal, don't act the fool on social media, because I've seen about 200 guys commit and you aren't one of them. I've seen about 600 guys go on all these great visits and you aren't one of them. If you jump in the portal, you better handle your business correctly, because these guys aren't, they're studying.
And a lot of these guys that go in, what percentage do you guys say of the players who hit the portal know where they're going? What percentage? And not just know, but know of where they're going. Like they know somebody wants them and they have knowledge of it. Even though they're not supposed to.
That's tough. You know, you're not supposed to know where you're going.
Supposed to know. Yeah.
I would probably say a quarter if I had to take a complete guess. You know, there are some guys that just say, you know what, I need a fresh start wherever that is. We'll see. But you do see guys enter all the time with no contact tags on their portal entry. That more times than not indicates, hey, I know where I'm going because, well, conversations were had. So I'd say maybe a quarter, but I don't know. That's a pretty interesting question.
I'd have to know. I ain't gonna lie. I'd have to know. I would have to know. The kind of person I am, I would have to know from someone on the other, even though I'm not allowed to know. I would have to know via people I trust, you know, third degrees, whatever degree of separation that, hey, we want you. And
hey, Rod, and here's the other thing. If you have because let's be real, the agents are now running a lot of this. If you have a good agent, then you've already had a lot of conversations, whether you're supposed to or not. So even if you go in nowadays with the no contact tag, Bobby hit on this morning in a discussion. I think it was on Coffee and Football. That may not mean one school anymore, right, CJ? Maybe the agent. We've talked to everybody. We're not going to take 50 calls here because I've got 7 other clients. So we got this thing narrowed down to 3, and we're going to make a decision from there.
Yep. Yeah, you're right about that, man.
I mean, it is free agency, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about
here. And everybody's a free agent pretty much, right? You can be a free agent whenever you want to. It's a beautiful thing. All right. Thank you guys for all the super chats, and thank you guys for all the questions. Really appreciate that. Thank you to KJ Lacy as well for joining us. Lifetime Longhorn, KJ Lacy for joining us. We appreciate him. Once again, thank you to Duck Camp because they're sponsoring all of our live shows this week of our coverage of the college football playoff matchup between Texas and Clemson. So thank you very much to Duck Camp. It's 8:26 and OU still sucks. Yes, there you go. They do. Yes, they do. Always will. Yeah, people are really concerned about Oklahoma's, not concerned, but a lot of conversation about Oklahoma's offensive identity crisis they got going on. There's some big issues going on at Oklahoma. No question about that. So thank you guys for all the super chats and all the questions. Like I said, thank you to Duck Camp, duckcamp.com for sponsoring all of our live streams this week while we are previewing the college football playoff matchup between Texas and Clemson. Thank you very much to homefieldapparel.com as well. We really appreciate them for being part of the All in Texas football family. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Can't thank Matthew enough. Matthew always does a great job. Thank you to Jerry. Thank you, Jerry, for all of the knowledge. Thank you, CJ, for all of your wisdom and tidbits. We appreciate you as well. Tomorrow, folks, you'll have actually we'll be on remote tomorrow, correct? I believe.
Coffee and Football's live from Duck Camp headquarters here in Austin, Thursday and Friday morning.
Thank you, Freddie. So we'll do some remote tomorrow live from Duck Camp. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. You'll also have the winning drive. That'll be at 3:15 to around 4:30. That'll be myself, CJ Vogel, and Coach Bob Shipley will be joining us there as well. Also, thank you to Andy Ludicky. Didn't thank him again. Thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our team. And until next time, that'll be tomorrow. We appreciate you guys and hook 'em horns.